If there was one thing I looked forward to each year as a queer person living in the American South, it was the Target Pride display. No matter how subdued Pride might be in the South, how isolated it felt as an LGBTQ person, I could walk into Target and enjoy shelves lined with rainbows celebrating all things Pride throughout the month of June. But this year, Target is noticeably less colorful. In fact, the retail giant has actually pulled rainbow merchandise from its shelf. This change comes after several years of targeted backlash to LGBTQ rights in the public square throughout the country. My name is Elizabeth, and I like to overshare on the internet. Sometimes that oversharing means that I'm chattering about all things culture and an issue that matters to me, or something that's sparked my curiosity. And today, that topic would be, is corporate pride over? Are we done with corporate pride? And not, are we as gay people, are the gays done with corporate pride, but is corporate pride done with the gays? But to answer that question, we have to set the scene. On April 1st, 2023, influencer Dylan Mulvaney posted a video of her enjoying a Bud Light that was marketed with her face on it. Mulvaney was sent a PR package as part of a larger campaign to address Bud Light's decline in sales and attract younger audiences. Mulvaney, a trans activist, was highlighting March Madness. In the video, Mulvaney talked about a March Madness contest sponsored by Bud Light and how she was celebrating her day 365 of womanhood. She said the brand sent her the beer cans, including one that featured a custom design of her face to celebrate her 1 year of transitioning. Now, backlash to the video quickly spiraled far beyond Mulvaney's one TikTok. Prominent figures, including commentator Ben Shapiro, Curse of the Earth, and Donald Trump Jr. didn't just comment on the TikTok, he actually called for a boycott of Bud Light. Conservative singer Kid Rock highlighted this boycott by posting a video on his Instagram where he's shown blowing up a case of Bud Light beer, because there's nothing conservative men love more than blowing up things. It's been a year since that moment, and Bud Light sales still are flat. AB InBev, which is the corporate owner of Budweiser and Bud Light, said overall sales topped $14.5 billion, but sales in the US declined 9.1% from January to March of 2023 to 2024. Sales by retailers were down 13%, primarily due to a decline in consumers buying Bud Light. These are tangible numbers. But what is talked about less, and what you may have missed in this conversation, is how disappointed the LGBTQ community was with Bud Light's failure to support Dylan Mulvaney through the controversy. Instead, the brand ended up firing the marketing executive who had signed off on the partnership and did not offer any support to Dylan Mulvaney through an unimaginable amount of backlash to one person. To this day, I can't imagine facing that kind of vitriol, and Dylan Mulvaney wasn't given any resources or support by the very brand that had used her to market their March Madness contest. In fact, the Human Rights Campaign, the country's largest LGBTQ advocacy group, removed Anheuser-Busch's Best Place to Work for LGBTQ Quality designation following the Dylan Mulvaney backlash. But the Bud Light backlash was not contained to just one influencer and one brand. In May of 2023, a month after Dylan Mulvaney's post, Target faced an uproar after releasing a line of swimwear for Pride Month. Colorado Rep. Lauren Boebert tweeted that Target won't be getting another dollar from her, accusing the company of being a quote woke end quote corporation. And this year, anti-equality advocates continue to create hate and backlash to anyone they deem a target in their attempt to push Pride back into the margins of the public. Miss Rachel, a popular YouTuber for young children, shared a video on her Instagram and her TikTok at the very beginning of Pride Month. In this video is aimed at her older audience. She wished her viewers a happy Pride. Miss Rachel's YouTube channel is for toddlers, but her videos on Instagram and TikTok center conversations that are geared towards parents. In these videos, she's shared about harder topics, such as videos on postpartum depression and advocating to keep funding for early childhood education. The response to her video was immediate and swift, with conservative activist Matt Walsh calling on parents to boycott her. He saw Miss Rachel's video and tweeted out with the caption, "Miss Rachel is an extremely popular YouTuber who makes content for babies and toddlers. She just posted a video celebrating Pride Month. This is a message to conservative parents. She doesn't want your business. You should respond accordingly." Walsh completely ignored the fact that her Pride message wasn't geared to toddlers. It was geared to families of toddlers. And while often conservatives say that LGBTQ advocates are targeting their children, they couldn't use this as an excuse in their attempt to call for a boycott on Miss Rachel. It's simply because of their bigotry that they're calling for a boycott on Miss Rachel. And we should be pretty clear today what the agenda of people like Matt Walsh and those who support him are. Matt Walsh and people like him do not wish for LGBTQ equality in this country, and they will do everything within their power to move the cultural conversation to make it harder for LGBTQ equality for all. They will not stop with protesting trans rights as they did with Dylan Mulvaney, the backlash to Bud Light. They will not stop with protesting what they consider transgender acceptance when they protested Pride's swimsuits that were trans friendly. They will attack anyone who supports LGBTQ rights because they wish to see all LGBTQ rights in this country eradicated. The backlash to Miss Rachel is just the first of what I assume will be several conservative meltdowns during Pride Month. They come every year like clockwork. Miss Rachel, Bud Light, Target, are not the first, and they will not be the last public figures or businesses to face calls for a boycott over public support for LGBTQ rights. With all of this backlash from anti-equality advocates, companies have to ask themselves, is public support of LGBTQ issues worth risking their customers and facing a backlash that can cost them millions of dollars? And while businesses grapple with that question, there is the ever-present debate, do corporations even belong at Pride? It may feel like a lifetime ago, but not that long ago. In fact, when I was a child, most Americans were opposed to marriage equality. Even California, with its reputation for liberal ideas, voted against marriage equality in 2008. Consider these numbers. A Pew Research polling in 2004, Americans opposed same-sex marriage by a margin of 60% to 31%. But support for same-sex marriage has steadily grown over the past 15 years. And today, support for same-sex marriage remains near its highest point. Based on polling in 2019, a majority of Americans, 61%, now support same-sex marriage, while 31% oppose it. That basically flips what it was in 2004, which I think is an interesting phenomenon. And also, has there been any other issue in politics that has so rapidly changed in less than 2 decades? Or actually in 2 decades, public opinion changing so massively on an issue like this. Just 2 years after I was born, the Defense of Marriage Act was signed into law in 1996. It defined marriage by the federal government as between a man and a woman. So what has changed over 15 years? What changed from when I was a child, when marriage equality was pretty much unthinkable, to a world where the idea of banning same-sex marriage seems impossible? Part of this huge shift can be tied to corporations joining forces with LGBTQ advocates. I looked into a lot of 2012 articles, including this political one. One by one, national corporations like Microsoft, Starbucks, Boeing, Google are wading into the once risky business of taking a position supporting gay marriage in states across the country. Nowhere is that more apparent than in the lawsuit challenging the Defense of Marriage Act, which a federal appeal courts called unconstitutional. 48 companies, including Nike, Time Warner Cable, Aetna, Exelon Corp, and Xerox, have signed a brief arguing that the law negatively affected their business. Now, you may wonder, why does it even matter if corporations put their weight into these legal changes? Because legal safety for marriage equality meant more LGBTQ people were safe to come out. And the more people that come out of the closet, so to speak, the more we can see an attitude towards LGBTQ rights change in this country. As Harvey Milk challenged his fellow activists in the 70s, quote, "Gay brothers and sisters, you must come out. Come out to your parents. I know that it is hard and it will hurt them, but think about how they will hurt you in the voting booth. Come out to your relatives. Come out to your friends, if indeed they are your friends. Come out to your neighbors, to your fellow workers, to the people who work where you eat and sleep. Come out only to the people you know and who know you, not to anyone else. But once and for all, break down the myth. Destroy the lies and distortions for your sake, for their sake." Harvey Milk's thesis was once a person knew that they loved someone who is gay, they could not vote against their loved one's interests. And this thesis has really changed American politics, because it has been statistically proven that once a person knows someone who is LGBTQ, that they do change their minds on LGBTQ politics. These corporations, though, did not act on their own generosity. LGBTQ advocates like the Human Rights Campaign lobbied them to change their policy. But the largest influence on why businesses changed their policy was due to the cost of not being LGBTQ friendly. I looked at a paper that was from the Wharton School of Business in the mid-2000s, and it addressed the cost of corporations for the lack of marriage equality under the Defense of Marriage Act. It says, in duplicating benefits granted to married different-sex couples, such as the extension of health insurance to spouses or partners, employers have inadvertently created other problems. For an example, in the case of a gay employee whose partner receives health insurance, The benefit is counted as extra income, and that income is taxed. The employer must then track these employees differently, reporting the income to the IRS and issuing an extra W-2 form at the end of the year. The extra taxation means that the employee is effectively making less money than a heterosexual married colleague, earning the same salary. Other inequities include the fact that same-sex partners cannot reduce taxable income by contributing to a flexible savings account. The inability to extend COBRA benefits, a lack of protected leave in times of illnesses and family crises, and tax disadvantages when a same-sex partner is dedicated a beneficiary of a pension, annuity, and life insurance. The Defense of Marriage Act also adds expenses by forcing corporations to keep two systems for payroll and benefits. Supporting the end of DOMA and marriage equality was good for business. And as President Calvin Coolidge said over 100 years ago, or actually just about 100 years ago, the business of America is business. But this does not mean that corporate pride never came under criticism. Criticism of corporate pride pop up every single year, a few days before Pride Month and throughout Pride Month. People joke about how corporations will turn out the rainbow to pander to the LGBTQ community. As one LGBTQ journalist wrote, they actually dread June and the sheer amount of corporate pandering. Ronaldo Walcott wrote in Canadian Dimension, "What I am opposed to about corporate pride is that queer and trans people are now uniformly turned into entertainment for the heterosexual gaze. Even if we queer and trans people continue to think we are doing it for ourselves, adorned with rainbow colors, donning drag for the parade, exposing tits to challenge the patriarchy, wearing assless chaps, or showing off chiseled bodies, Pride has now become a festival of performative queerness with no program or even a hint towards liberation. And this year, perhaps more than any other, the hollowness of corporate pride is front and center in a lot of our minds. Companies like McDonald's, they may host the rainbow flag, but they're also on the BDS list. BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, and Sanctions, and it is a non-violent Palestinian-led movement promoting boycotts, divestments, and economic sanctions against Israel as long as it continues to perpetuate apartheid. And this brings me to my original point at the very beginning of this video. Companies withdrawing public support from Pride. Influencers have noticed this, with multiple LGBTQ content creators stating that they have actually lost business this year. They have received less brand recognition or business around Pride than historically they've experienced. Elise D'Alessandro of Ready to Stare on Instagram told Modern Retail, "This year's Pride Month will just be a regular month. Whereas I used to make 1/3 of my yearly income, I would say I'll make 1/12 of my income this year." What's interesting to me is the numbers are reportedly not that different. If you actually look at what corporations say they're spending, a majority of corporate executives and Fortune 500 leaders told Gravity Research that they are not planning to actually change their Pride strategy for 2024. 13% were unsure of changing, and only 9% said they were definitely planning changes. But perhaps we as consumers and creators, we see the change because 9% of those changes were very visible brands like Target. And even then, Target said instead of focusing on sales, it would invest in year-round investments in the LGBTQ community, including donations to organizations such as the Human Rights Campaign and Family Equality. Target has also said it would participate in local Pride events across the nation while it did not stock its stores with merchandise to help protect its employees from protesters. So what does this all mean? It is a reminder that corporate pride will not save us. In fact, while it brings visibility to the community, it often comes paired with extreme backlash that can harm LGBTQ people and hate that can actually overshadow the work that allies attempted to do to support the LGBTQ community. The hate spun against Dylan Mulvaney is just one example of corporate pride gone completely wrong. A corporation that was all too happy to use a trans influencer to promote sales, but they offered no support when their marketing threatened a real person's personal safety and mental health. I personally would love to see Pride merch back on my Target shelves, but I would also most like to see books that have LGBTQ characters not pulled from my local library. I would like to see queer Palestinian lives protected from bombs in Gaza. I would like to see bans on reproductive health care overturned. To me, that is what Pride is more about. Pride is more about policy change that will improve everyone's lives rather than just rainbow merchandise on a Target shelf. And if one day Target feels it's safe enough to put rainbow merch back on shelves, then maybe that means we've seen an improvement in the legal attitude and the hate that is now moving so many policies in this country against LGBTQ people. I know this was a really hard topic. It was not fun to research. Reading about hate campaigns against LGBTQ people is never fun. Pride started as a riot, and I think we should all bring our rioting attitude to Pride, in that we should know that while we celebrate liberation that we've experienced personally in our lives and legally with gay marriage protected in the United States, it's not protected everywhere in the world. There are people actively trying to end LGBTQ rights in the United States, and of course, you really can't celebrate Pride when your life is at risk. I think we should all take that into context and understand that our celebration should never come at the expense of someone else's liberation, of anyone's liberation. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support my channel, leaving a like or a comment telling me what you thought of this video would be awesome. You could also subscribe to my newsletter, support me over on Substack, and check out my other videos, because that's always a great way to support a creator. Also, I wore these earrings just for this video, and I can't believe I filmed this, because I wrote this and it took me several days to actually sit down and film it, because it was intimidating to film and it's going to be intimidating to edit. Let me tell you that right now. Anyway, thanks for watching, y'all. I appreciate everyone who checks in on my channel and enjoys my content. Hopefully you're enjoying it when you watch it. Anyway, I will see you all over the internet, and I'll be here to overshare again. See y'all later. See ya.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.